Hi, I'm Marie Story, Corporate Wellbeing Consultant and Team Leader at Welsh Duffield Companies. I'm also an ACE Certified Health Coach and a Certified Health Education Specialist. Today I'm here to talk about prioritizing your health and well-being, which is important now more than ever as we're hopefully getting towards the latter end of the pandemic. We know that it's very important to take care of ourselves and to try to make time to put our health and well-being first. Today's goal is to really focus on nutrition, physical activity, and self-care tips to stay healthy in a way that works for you. I'm going to go over quite a bit here today, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by all that I'm discussing, but to think about one or two strategies that you're ready and able to implement. Oftentimes, implementing just a few small goals to start can help us feel more confident in reaching other goals that we might have for our well-being. Let's start with healthy eating habits. I often find that people ask a lot of questions about nutrition because we live in a diet culture and we're bombarded with diet messaging and advertisement. In fact, this industry is a $70 billion a year industry, and about 95% of these diets fail. This is mainly because most of them are a short-term fix and are unsustainable as a lifelong change. So today I want to go back to the basics of healthy eating and how we can make some small changes for a big impact. While some diets, as I talked about, may suggest otherwise, we all need a balance of protein, fat, carbohydrates, fiber, vitamins, and minerals in our diets to sustain a healthy body and get us through every day. You don't need to eliminate certain categories of food from your diet, but we want to actually be mindful about selecting the healthiest options from each category so that we get the best energy and nutrition from our food. First, we're going to talk about protein, which gives you energy to kind of get up and go, keep going throughout the day, while also supporting our mood and our cognitive function. We know too much protein can be harmful to people with kidney disease. The latest research suggests that many of us need more high-quality protein, especially as we age. That doesn't mean you have to eat more animal products. A variety of plant-based sources of protein each day can ensure your body gets all the essential protein that it needs. And then fat. Not all fat is the same. While bad fats can wreck your diet and increase your risk of certain diseases, good fats protect your brain and heart. In fact, healthy fats, such as omega-3s, are vital to our physical and emotional health. Including more healthy fat in your diet can help improve your mood, boost your well-being, and even trim your waistline. Many of us might remember back to the 90s when there were a lot of fat-free products on the market because it was a fad to have a fat-free or low-fat diet. What happens with a lot of these products is that there's a lot of processed ingredients added, a lot of sugar to make it taste palatable still. So we're not actually getting anything better from that product. We might even be getting worse additives. And that's why we all want to make sure that there's a healthy balance of fat in our diets. I'm going to talk more about reading labels later and how we can really focus on the healthier fats. Fiber is also important. Eating foods high in dietary fiber, so this could be grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and beans, can help you stay regular and even lower your risk for heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. It can also improve your skin and even help you lose weight because it helps us to feel full when we incorporate fiber throughout the day. Calcium, as well as leading to osteoporosis, not getting enough calcium in your diet has been contributed to increased risks of anxiety, depression, and even sleep difficulties. This again shows how the connection between nutrition is not just physical, but also affecting our mental and emotional well-being. So whatever your age or gender, it's vital to include calcium-rich foods in your diet. Limit those that deplete calcium and get enough magnesium and vitamin D and K to help calcium really do its job effectively. Now, carbohydrates, which always get such a bad rap. Carbohydrates are one of your body's main sources of energy, but most should come from complex, unrefined carbs. Think of vegetables, whole grains, fruit, rather than sugars and refined carbs, which make up a lot of Americans' diets. Cutting back on white bread, pastries, starches, and sugar can prevent rapid spikes in our blood sugar too. And this even leads to fluctuations in mood and energy, something that we don't need every day when we're trying to get through our workday. It can also lead to a buildup of fat, especially around your waistline. So again, making sure that we're including the right carbohydrates throughout our day, and we'll talk a little bit more about this too. So how can you set yourself up for success? Cooking more meals at home is one way that you can help take charge of what you're eating and better monitor exactly what goes into your food. You'll generally eat fewer calories this way and avoid chemical additives, added sugar, and unhealthy fats of packaged and takeout foods. That these often leave you feeling tired, bloated, and irritable, and can actually exacerbate symptoms of depression, stress, and anxiety. We also want to make sure to make small changes. Again, don't feel like you have to overhaul your whole diet when cutting back on unhealthier foods in your diet. And it's important to replace them with healthier alternatives. So replacing dangerous trans fats with healthier fats, such as switching from fried chicken to a grilled or roasted chicken, will make a positive difference in your health. Or maybe you like to bring portable fruit for your lunch or snacks in your work days. Pairing an apple with an almond butter or an apple with a cheese stick or celery with hummus rather than just the fruit or veggie alone will make sure that it sticks with you longer throughout your workday. We also want to make sure that we understand how to read labels. While it's great to prepare meals at home, we can't always make every meal at home, and we need some convenience foods. I'm going to give you some tips on how to make sure that when you're looking for those convenience foods, you get the best nutrition so that it's something that's going to stick with you and give you energy throughout the day. We also want to focus on how you feel after eating. This will help foster healthy new habits and tastes. The healthier the food you eat, the better, or I should say the more balanced the food you eat, the better you'll feel after a meal. The more of that processed food you eat, the more likely you are to feel uncomfortable, maybe even nauseous or drained of energy after you eat it. I'm going to talk a bit more about emotional eating later and how this comes into play. And then, of course, drink plenty of water. Water is key for everything that happens in our body. It flushes our system of waste products and toxins. But many of us go through life dehydrated. This can cause us to feel extra tired with low energy. It can lead to headaches. And it's even common to mistake thirst for hunger. So staying well hydrated will also help you make healthier food choices too. I like to give as a good rule of thumb for our fluid intake is to take your body weight and divide it by 2, and that's how many ounces you should have every day. So someone who weighs 200 pounds should have about 100 ounces of water or fluid every day. This might be more than those 8-ounce glasses we typically think of. So it's important to know that water needs can vary from person to person, but if you don't drink any water currently, just starting to drink a glass or 2 more a day can be helpful. Personally, I love to wake up first thing in the morning and have at least a small glass of water because when you wake up, you're already slightly dehydrated. And this kicks off your body the right way by getting that water into your system. Now, tips for reading labels. As I mentioned, we don't all have time to prepare all of our meals at home, and we need some convenience items. As you can see here is the food label. There have been some changes to it over the last few years, and I want to point some of these out and what to look for. The first is the serving size, which is right at the top, tells us how much of the product. Everything below is then indicated. So think of a bag of chips or even cereal. It's pretty easy to eat 2 servings of those. And that's okay sometimes, but just knowing that if you have 2 servings, that you need to multiply all the nutrition then below by 2 to understand what you're truly getting. So size is most important first, and then look for the fat content. Here we can see there's a total fat of 8 grams. Followed by saturated fat and trans fat. While saturated fat has a lot of new research coming out indicating that it might not be as terrible as we originally thought and can still be included in a diet in moderation, we want to also really focus on those heart-healthy fats, those polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, which have actually been found to be heart-healthy. Trans fat is one, though, that we really do want to limit, and that's because it's a man-made fat. It's essentially a hydrogenated process where by making it man-made, we make a product more shelf-stable, we make it last for a very long time. So imagine when we eat some of those processed products with trans fat, what it does inside of our body. And trans fat really has no value to our overall health. In fact, higher amounts of trans fat can lower our good cholesterol, our HDL, and increase our bad cholesterol, our LDL, which is why we just don't really need it in our diets. It's important to note, though, that if there's under 0.5 grams of trans fat in a product, the label is allowed to say 0 grams, which means there could be trace amounts of it. And what we really need to do is then look at the ingredient list to know what's in the product. And anything with a partially hydrogenated oil in the ingredient list means that there is some trans fat, and there's probably a better option out there. Sometimes we see this in peanut butter. We just want to look for something then that doesn't have that partially hydrogenated oil. The next one is to look at sodium. Oftentimes, these convenience foods have a lot of sodium. It makes it taste good. It preserves it. and sodium can creep up on us quickly. We need about 2,300 milligrams or less a day, but the average American gets about 3,400 milligrams. So just taking note here, I know sometimes I bring canned soup to work for lunch, and it's easy to get almost half a day's worth or more of our sodium in that one can of soup because there's usually 2 servings. So instead, I'll try to pick the reduced sodium option so that I'm not getting so much sodium in one sitting and I'm still getting a quick, easy meal. The next is to figure out fiber, and a good rule of thumb is to have about a gram of fiber for every 10 grams of carbohydrate. So in this particular product, 37 grams of total carbs, 4 grams of fiber. This is a pretty good ratio. If you're looking for bars or quick grab-and-go breakfast items, a good rule of thumb is to try to look for at least 5 grams of fiber because it's going to stick with you longer and be a good source of fiber. Protein is also crucial here. We want to look for about 5 grams or more of protein, again, so that it sticks with us longer throughout the day and when we need that energy. And then, of course, the new label includes the added sugar content. All products usually have some naturally occurring sugar, depending on what's in them, but the added sugar is what the manufacturer adds to maybe make it taste better and to want us coming back for more. A big culprit here is, of course, yogurt. Sometimes we turn around the label on a yogurt and we can see that there's 15 or more grams of added sugar outside of what's naturally there. So a good rule of thumb is to try to look for things that have under 10 grams of added sugar. One of my favorite products now for yogurt is Siggi's yogurt. I like it because it has a higher protein content and they add less sugar, so it doesn't have such a sweet taste, but still provides you a good flavor. Now, of course, the key to eating a healthy diet and having a healthy lifestyle is that moderation is key. And I try not to think of foods as off limits or good or bad. This really sets us up for potential failure when we think that we can't eat something that we love or we're really restricting ourselves. All foods can have a place in our diet. Maybe with those foods that we deem more off limits, we just want to think about having them in smaller portions. Maybe we know that we do a lot of pasta and we want to make sure we're incorporating more fruits and veggies. So instead of using our big dinner plate for our pasta, we use a salad plate so that we're making sure we're getting a realistic serving size. Then take your time when you're eating. We know it takes the body up to 20 minutes to feel full. And another important part, if you're frequently eating quickly throughout the workday or working through lunch and eating at your desk and eating fast, you're taking in a lot of air, which can also upset your stomach and lead to digestive issues. So it's important to just sit down and take your time to eat whenever possible. It's also helpful to eat with others when you can. I think of family dinners. When I was growing up, it was always at 6 o'clock. Now that I have my own family, I can see how that can be difficult to do every day. But even doing it a few times a week can be very beneficial to sit down and gather around and enjoy food together. If you find that you struggle with emotional eating, some people try to limit snack foods in the home because it becomes just too much of a temptation when the emotions are running high and you're turning to food as a source of comfort. So maybe it's better to keep more of those fresh fruits and veggies, those healthy, quick grab-and-go snacks available in your house so that you're not as likely to maybe binge eat on items that provide more calorie density and maybe don't have as much nutrition. Many of you have probably seen the My Plate model by now, which replaced the food pyramid. I like it for its simplicity in showing what a well-balanced meal should look like. It should have grains and proteins making up a quarter of the plate each, and then fruits and vegetables should be the other half. I'm sure most of us admittedly could say that maybe we're not doing as well as we'd like on fruits and vegetables. By focusing on fruits and veggies at every meal, we make sure that we're getting all those vitamins and those nutrients and the fiber that we need every day. A great example is shown here. It's a piece of salmon. We've got those omega-3 fatty acids, quinoa, which is a great source of both carbohydrates and protein. We've got some fruit on the side and then a nice green side salad. A really well-balanced meal here. And then reminding people that dairy is mainly something we want to look for calcium, but it does not always have to be traditional cow's milk. We have great alternatives now, such as almond milk, or maybe it's a cheese or a yogurt, or other sources that provide that calcium. Green leafy vegetables are another great one that provide calcium to us outside of the traditional cow's milk products. Many people ask about whether it's worth it to also buy organic, and it's been very expensive buying groceries lately, and any way that we can save money is valuable. But some individuals are really trying to focus on buying more organic and wondering what's worth it. Every year, the Environmental Working Group puts out a list of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. What it's essentially saying is that for non-organic or traditional produce items, the Dirty Dozen are found to have higher pesticide counts. The Clean 15 of the non-organic traditional items are found to have lower amounts of pesticides. It makes sense because the Dirty Dozen are usually items that we're eating the whole piece of produce, apples, grapes, strawberries, while the Clean 15, they have a hardier outside or maybe something that we're not even eating the outside skin, like an avocado or a cantaloupe, which protects the inside from getting such a high pesticide count. For example, with my kids, I like to buy the organic strawberries because they eat them so much and I want to limit the content of the pesticides they're eating. They also like avocados, so I don't buy those organic because it's not as well worth it. This is just something to be mindful of if it's an area that you're concerned about or trying to be more mindful about. I'm going to pause here to ask a few questions about what emotional eating is and how to check in with yourself. Do you eat more when you're stressed? Do you eat when you're not hungry or when you're full? Do you eat to feel better? Do you reward yourself with food? Does food make you feel safe? Or do you feel powerless or out of control around food? Answering yes to some of these is totally normal, but if you feel like you answer yes to all of them all of the time, it could be that emotional eating is something that's very much a part of your life and something that you might want to focus and work on. Common causes of emotional eating are stress. There's a biological reason why we reach for the foods we do when we're stressed out. We release a lot of cortisol, and we need to replenish that cortisol because it is essential for us dealing with stress every day. But in doing so, it causes us to crave saltier, fattier, sugary foods. And that's biologically why we want those foods when we're stressed out. We oftentimes do it as well to stuff down emotions. Maybe it's boredom or loneliness or sadness or anger. We're stuffing that emotion down by releasing dopamine. That reward center in our brain is triggered when we're eating that ice cream or that chocolate, and we feel really good for a temporary time. Unfortunately, afterwards, those emotions will come back because we haven't dealt with them, and we'll find that we also feel guilt and shame for maybe eating something that we didn't want to eat in those quantities. Oftentimes we do it because of childhood habits or those social influences. Maybe in our homes, food was the primary reward system, and it's very ingrained in us to turn to food even in times where things are going well. There are some proven strategies, though, for putting the brakes on emotional eating. The first thing I recommend is to keep a food diary. And I'm not talking about counting calories or weighing your food. It's simply jotting down what you eat, when you eat, and how you feel before and after, both physically and emotionally. This helps us to be more mindful of why we eat when we do. Another great tip here is to recognize the feeling of hunger. This hunger scale is a simple way to reflect on when we go to eat. Are we at about a 3? Are we feeling some hunger pangs, about a 4? And when we're done, we should feel like we're at about a 7, full and satisfied. We really want to avoid these red areas where we're extremely hungry and starving, or we're so full that we feel sick. Taking note of this hunger scale can let us know that, wait a minute, I'm neutral, I'm satisfied, but I feel these cravings to eat, and helps us recognize when it's emotional hunger versus physical. And this helps us to ultimately build resilience and turn to other strategies that are a little bit more positive when dealing with stress. However, if you feel like you are in the throes of one of these cravings and you just have to have that chocolate, I recommend waiting 5 minutes, and while you're waiting, checking in with yourself on that scale, or calling somebody up on the phone, or going for a walk. And oftentimes you'll find that that craving will pass. But if after that time it still hasn't, I tell you to go ahead and indulge in a moderate quantity and practice mindful eating. Really enjoy that piece of chocolate or that ice cream. Sit down, think about the textures and the taste versus quickly eating something without even realizing all that you've eaten and then maybe feeling sick afterwards. It's okay to indulge sometimes in those things that we love. I want to shift gears here a little bit to movement, since many of us are probably sitting for long periods of day, or maybe we have to stay in one position for a long period of the day. Movement can be a really powerful tool to help our body and mind get connected again, and to help us feel any areas of tension that maybe we want to get into so we can help our bodies feel better. There's a few fundamentals of exercise. The first is cardio, and that's anything that's going to get your heart rate going. This could be vacuuming the house. This could be going for a walk, going for a run, in the garden, raking leaves. All of these can count for cardio. And why cardio is so great is that it releases endorphins. This helps us over a period of time to even sleep better. And just 10 minutes of cardio a day have even been linked to lower risks of depression. So there's a strong connection with our mental health when it comes to exercise. Strength is also really important because it helps keep our muscles strong as we age, and it helps keep us mobile. This could be traditional weight training, or it could be doing body weight training, or certain yoga activities can even provide resistance. Strength training is fantastic for also keeping our metabolism going as we age. Unfortunately, every decade, we need about 150 calories less. And by increasing our muscle mass or maintaining it, we ensure that we keep our metabolism going as we age. Flexibility is also key, but often forgotten about, and this is the range of motion of our joints. We might feel if we have to sit a lot throughout the day or on our feet a lot throughout the day that we start to experience pain, and flexibility can really help us to relax the muscles and to really get into deep breathing and really release tension in our bodies. To overcome obstacles when it comes to exercise, very much like nutrition, we want to ditch that all or nothing attitude. The fact that we don't have to be doing 5 times a week, 30 minutes a day to still be getting some of the benefits. And maybe we're starting at square one and we just can't do that to start. We need to realize that anything we can do is helpful towards reaching physical fitness goals. And be kind to yourself. Make sure that you check your expectations and realize maybe something you could do a decade ago is just not realistic now. And that doesn't mean that you can't attain goals and reach towards bigger goals down the line. Some solutions to common excuses that I often hear with exercise is the first being, I hate exercising. And I always tell people to make sure that you find something that you love. Maybe you really need to be outside to enjoy exercise, and going to the gym or walking on a treadmill just doesn't do it for you. Make sure you find something that you love. Oftentimes people say I'm too busy, and I like to remind individuals that it only takes 5 or 10-minute bursts of activity to start accumulating throughout the day and reach fitness goals. Others will say, I'm too tired. This is a common one. If we can get through the first 5 minutes of an activity, we'll usually find that it boosts our energy levels, and by regularly exercising, it'll actually help us sleep better. Some individuals feel like their health isn't good enough, maybe they're embarrassed about their fitness level, or that exercise is painful and difficult. I have some resources I'll share at the end, but just recognize that there are fitness routines out there now for everyone. So if you're starting at square one and maybe you can't even stand for long periods of time, there are even workouts we can do from a chair. There's something that we can work with for everyone. So to set yourself up for success, be sure to schedule exercise in when you can, even if it's just a 10 or 15-minute walk at lunch. Make it easy on yourself. Bring your sneakers to work, comfy shoes, so that you're removing obstacles or maybe excuses that you have of not being prepared to work out when it's a beautiful day outside and a perfect opportunity to go for a walk. And then hold yourself accountable. I've always had a lot of success when I have a buddy who keeps me accountable. Somebody to enjoy walking with or running with can make it a lot more successful in the long term. Now, when it comes to self-care, we know that this great example of this is when you're on the flight and the flight attendant tells you, in case of emergency and the oxygen masks come down, you always put on yours first before helping someone next to you. And this is essentially what self-care is. We need to take care of ourselves. We're not going to be able to be there for the ones we love and the ones who need us. The Help Guide has 6 keys to mental health. It's one of my favorite websites for mental health support, not just for stress management and breathing and relaxation, but also for individuals who feel like they might be dealing with a mental illness like post-traumatic stress or bipolar disorder. There's really some information for everyone here. But they have these 6 keys to mental health that really help support self-care. The first is social connection. And as we went through the pandemic over the last 18 months, early on, I think social connections was one area that struggled for a lot of people. It's really important to make sure we have face-to-face, voice-to-voice connections with other people. In doing so, we get a great boost to our mental health, not just for us, but whoever it is we're interacting with. We also want to make sure that we stay active. I've talked a lot about this, but there's also a mindfulness component when it comes to activity. We really want to think about when we're moving. What body parts do we feel the tension in? How can we relax the muscles? How can we maybe put a little more effort into the muscle? How can we feel the wind on our skin if we're outside, or the temperature, or the sunlight? Really getting into our bodies helps us get out of the anxiety and the worry that might be in our mind. Managing stress is, of course, key. So we talked about how emotional eating is not a positive coping stress mechanism for coping. But there are a lot of other great ones out there, like deep breathing and meditation. Maybe you enjoy reading, and that helps you disconnect from the thoughts that are going through your mind. Just finding positive ways that really relax you. Following a brain healthy diet is also important. We talked about how vital some of the nutrients we eat are for our mental health, like calcium even, omega-3s. Eating those whole foods as often as we can really help support our brain health. We also want to focus on quality sleep. So not necessarily quantity, but the quality of the sleep we're getting. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this on the next slide because it's so important. And then meaning and purpose. So this could be starting a gratitude journal or just writing down a thought every night on a post-it of what are we grateful for. Reflecting on the things that are going well can help us turn around any negative mindsets. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about some sleep strategies. One of the tips to help us get quality sleep is to keep in sync with our natural sleep cycle. This means waking up and going to bed at the same time every day, even on the weekend. So within about a half an hour. If you need to go to bed at 10 on weeknights, keep it about the same on weekends. If you have to wake up at 6 a.m., same thing on the weekend. This helps regulate our circadian rhythm. We also want to control our exposure to light. This can be hard where we live as it gets pretty dark in the winter time. Any days that are sunny, make sure that you get outside and get some of that light, especially in the morning hours. This helps, again, to regulate the circadian rhythm and with our melatonin production. On a sunny day, sit by the window in your house and drink your morning coffee. Any opportunity you get to expose yourself to that light is helpful. Exercise during the day. If we're very sedentary at our jobs, our bodies might not be physically tired enough to go to sleep at night. By exercising and just simply moving more throughout the day, we can really help ourselves sleep better. But if you're doing something vigorous like running, making sure that we don't do it an hour or two before bed because this can actually disrupt sleep. And then be smart about what you eat and drink. I typically think of here caffeine and alcohol. So with caffeine, we all metabolize it differently. Personally, I can't eat any caffeine or drink any caffeine after 12 in the afternoon because it still affects me when I'm trying to go to sleep. And then also with alcohol, if we drink more than the one recommended serving, sometimes 2 for men, a day, it can impact our sleep, essentially making us stay in the lighter stage of sleep and not getting into that deeper restorative sleep. And then wind down and clear your head. Start a little 5 or 10-minute routine before bed that really calms any worries that you have and allows you to get in a state of rest and relaxation. This could be doing a little bit of light reading in a dimmer lit room. This could be doing some very light stretches or deep breathing prior to going to bed. And then improve your sleep environment. We know that it should be dark, it should be cool, and relatively quiet. Personally, I love to have white noise. I'm a light sleeper, and even small things around going on outside, cars, birds can wake me up. So white noise has been very helpful in me getting quality sleep, meaning that I'm staying asleep throughout the night. As I've talked about, we've mentioned many things about eating tips, movement tips, and how to take care of yourself. Just think today about a couple of strategies or tips that you feel ready to implement and start there. Oftentimes, by starting with those smaller goals, again, we can reach the larger goals down the line. I want to finish with a few resources. These websites here, helpguide.org and headspace.com, are fantastic for mental health and meditation. There are some apps like the 7M Women or the 7M Workout, which is the 7-minute workout. All of them are very quick and short bursts of activity. I like to put on some of the flexibility ones as I watch my favorite TV show at night and do some stretching for my back and my hips. Fit On is another great one that provides a lot of free workouts for individuals. It includes everything from strength training to bar to Zumba to workouts that you can do with your kids. Fujicate is an app that allows you to scan a food. If you find that reading labels becomes daunting and you're looking for recommendations, you scan the product while you're at the store, and it provides a grade to the item, which is based on the nutrition and the ingredients, and provides an alternative if there's a better option out there. Insight Timer and Calm are also great for meditation and mindfulness. And then if you're looking for some eating plan tips, the DASH diet and the Mediterranean style of eating are fantastic ways that have been scientifically proven to help people get on track with healthy eating habits. And then of course, if you have an EAP available to you, this is a fantastic resource that you can tap into counseling and support if you feel that I'm really struggling in one particular area, I need some one-on-one help, and EAP is a great resource to help you with that. I thank you for listening today, and I hope that you've taken away a few strategies that you can implement now. Thank you.